To believe that a 3-foot lizard is a master thief? Maverick whistled. Percy walked into the courtroom, leading Sydney on a leash. Sydney looked bloated and was glowing, a faint, electronic blue. Exhibit A, Maverick announced. The wallet is currently in the digestive tract of this reptile. Preposterous, Bellows shouted. I demand a mistrial. I demand a dissection. I object, Percy cried. The judge, an elderly admiral, who was tired of Bellows' antics, sighed. Very well. If the wallet is in the lizard, we shall wait. The court will recess until nature takes its course. 3 days later, the evidence was produced. The credits were retrieved, marked with Bellows' initials, and also a series of notes Bellows had written about how he was going to frame those pirates. The admiral read the notes aloud. Step 1. Mark the bills. Step 2. Plant a wallet. Step 3. Watch Sterling rot. Commodore Bellows, do you have an explanation for this? Bellows looked at the glowing iguana, then at the admiral, then at Maverick. It was, a training exercise? For the iguana? Command has seen enough, the admiral said. As Bellows was led away, he looked back at the crew of the Starskipper 73. They were currently sharing a celebratory jar of peanut butter with Sydney. Why me? Bellows wailed as the airlock closed. Why is it always me? Maverick Sterling leaned back, putting his mag boots up on the Commodore's old desk. You know, Percy, he said, taking a sip of the synthetic coffee, which finally tasted almost like coffee. I think we're going to like it here on Zion. 9. Wowiewał, Skip Percy Greenet. Wowiewał, The Nebula Pirates of Outpost 0G, a space comedy novel in 5 acts. Prologue. The armpit of the galaxy. In the shimmering, radioactive fringes of the Orion Spur sat Outpost 0G, a spinning hunk of metal and asteroid rock that the Galactic Command referred to as a strategic refueling station, but everyone else called the galaxy's armpit. It was a place where gravity was optional. The coffee tasted like recycled coolant, and the personnel were more interested in smuggling Rigelian rum than defending the quadrant. At the center of this bureaucratic nightmare was Commander Barnaby Beady Eyes Baxter. Baxter was a man whose blood pressure was high enough to power a small moon, and whose primary enemy wasn't the invading Zogite Empire, but a charismatic, law-breaking rogue named Captain Silas Sly Stryker. Chapter 1. Gravity, Belts and Ironsides. Commander Baxter sat at his levitating desk, clutching his stomach as if it contained a localized supernova. Across from him stood Lieutenant Percy Panic Pringle, a man whose primary skill was saluting with the wrong hand and tripping over his own shadow. Garter belts, Pringle! Baxter roared, his face turning a shade of purple usually reserved for dying stars. The medical staff on the Orion 6 ward are complaining. They need gravity stabilization garter belts to keep their stockings from floating off in 0G. You are the supply officer of this quadrant. Shake a hyperdrive leg and get them. But, sir, Pringle stammered, his spectacles slipping down his nose. The requisition forms are stuck in the nebula net. And besides, we have a bigger problem. I just got a subspace transmission. Grand Admiral Ironsides Igneous is arriving today for a sneak inspection. Baxter's jaw hit the deck. Admiral Igneous, the man who court-martials people for having unpolished boots? Look at this place, Pringle. The sinks in the officers' lounge are backing up with radioactive sludge, and Stryker's crew is probably running a gambling ring in the cargo bay. Baxter groaned, popping 3 acid-neutralizing nanobots into his mouth. My stomach acid could melt through the hull of a dreadnought. Pringle. If I'm sick, truly, medically incapacitated, I can't be held responsible for the state of the base, right? Technically, sir, you'd have to appoint an acting base commander, Pringle noted. Baxter's eyes lit up with a predatory gleam. Exactly, and I know just the sacrifice. Captain Sly Stryker. I'll make him the acting commander. He'll run this base into the ground right in front of Admiral Igneous. And when the dust settles, Stryker will be in the spice mines of Kessel. And I'll be a hero. Sir, that's actually brilliant, Pringle admitted. Of course it is. Now, catch me, Baxter shouted, dramatically fainting toward the floor. Pringle, naturally, was looking the other way. Chapter 2. The Command of Captain Sly. Captain Silas Sly Stryker was enjoying a quiet game of asteroid poker in his quarters on the Starskipper XB-73 when the news arrived. He was a man of effortless charm and dubious ethics, surrounded by a crew of misfits, the hulking engineer Grog, the neurotic pilot V, and the smooth-talking Fidget. "You want me to be the acting base commander?" Stryker asked, looking at the bedridden and suspiciously energetic Commander Baxter. "It's a heavy burden, Stryker," Baxter wheezed from his medical pod. Stryker grinned. He knew exactly what Baxter was up to. "Don't worry, Commander. We'll treat this base like it's our own ship." The moment Baxter was out of sight, Outpost 0G transformed. "All right, boys," Stryker shouted into the intercom. "Full speed ahead. Open the mess hall for a 2-4-hour luau. And find those gravity garter belts. I want them delivered to the nurses by sunset." Within hours, the base was a whirlwind of activity. Fidget had set up a 0G dance floor in the main hangar. Grog was fermenting rocket fuel punch in the coolant tanks. However, the fun was interrupted by a proximity alert. Admiral Ironside's Igneous arrived, looking like he was carved out of granite in spite. "Where's Baxter?" Igneous barked, stepping off his shuttle. "Medical pod, sir." "Space scurvy." Stryker lied smoothly, wearing a uniform that was 2 sizes too big and decorated with fake medals he'd won in a drinking contest. "I'm Captain Stryker, acting commander. This is my exec, Lieutenant Pringle. Welcome to the the outpost." Igneous looked around. "Why is there a hula dancer floating past the airlock?" "That's survival training, sir," Pringle squeaked. "She's practicing evasive maneuvers." Before Igneous could explode, a distraction arrived. The Archon of Silos, a high-ranking diplomat from a nearby star system, along with his 3 radiant daughters. Chapter 3. The Archon's Dilemma. The Archon was a man of immense dignity and a very short fuse. He had been rescued by Stryker's crew after his luxury yacht ran out of dilithium. "I seek the one who saved me," the Archon boomed. "And I wish to see the famous Earth custom of the wingding," Stryker whispered to Pringle. "If we don't keep the Archon happy, he'll pull his treaty with the command. If we keep him too happy, Igneous will kill us for having a party. We need to hide the Archon's daughters from the Admiral." What followed was a comedy of errors involving secret passages and cargo crates. Stryker tried to disguise Grog as one of the Archon's daughters to throw Igneous off the scent. "Admiral," Stryker said, steering Igneous toward the base laundry. "They eat uniforms." Meanwhile, Baxter, having recovered miraculously to witness Stryker's downfall, spotted the Archon's daughters being smuggled into the laundry. "Admiral!" Baxter screamed, running down the hall in his pajamas. "Stryker is hiding Xylian princesses in the laundry. It's a scandal. A diplomatic disaster." They burst into the laundry room. There stood Pringle, wearing a Xylian headdress and trying to teach a group of robotic cleaners how to hula dance. Baxter. Admiral Igneous roared. "You told me there were princesses here. All I see is a very confused lieutenant and some malfunctioning droids. You're delirious." Back to the medical pod. Chapter 4. The Laughing Gas Gambit. A week later, Baxter was seething. He had failed to get Stryker fired, so he decided to go after the weak link, Pringle. He convened a fitness board to have Pringle demoted to space janitor. "He's a menace, Stryker," Baxter laughed. Pringle once torpedoed a garbage scow because he thought it was a cloaked Zogite scout. Stryker knew he had to act. He slipped into the base's life support center with a canister of nitrous nebula gas, space-grade laughing gas. "If we can get Baxter in a good mood," Stryker told his crew, "he'll sign anything, even a promotion for Pringle." As Baxter sat in his office, preparing to ruin Pringle's life, a faint blue mist began to hiss through the vents. 5 minutes later, the commander was found rolling on the floor, howling with laughter. "Oh, Stryker!" Baxter gasped, tears streaming down his